Coming up on Talk is Cheap, we have a gentleman that came from the year 2749. What did he see? What does it look like? And what's the fuck is going on there? And some interesting cases that don't line up with a time period. Up next, Talk is Cheap. Welcome to Talk is Cheap, where cheap is talk and talk is cheap. I am Dan Hofeld, and with me as always,
Dusty Long.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about time travel. We were talking about this with a coworker at work, and he said we were crazy. What do you think to that?
Honestly, I believe he's got some good points because the science really doesn't correspond with it, and whatnot. You can't really travel back in time until you have a time machine, and since we don't have one, then see what I'm saying?
Well, for our technology-wise, we can't perceive it.
Yeah.
But I want to get his ass on the show, but Steve, I'm calling you out. Get your ass out here.
Come on,
we'll have a debate.
That's right. That way you can sit here and call me stupid all day.
So I'll start off here. Al Bielek, have you ever heard of him?
No.
He was in the Philadelphia experiment. You know about that?
Yes.
The ship where they experiment with invisibility, and him and his coworker, when they engaged the drives and it started going invisible, and then I think it was actually when it kind of reappeared back. It was in the transition phase of invisible to reappearing back, and like some of the soldiers or the Navy, what were they called? They're not soldiers, they're Navymen, whatever. Seamen. There you go.
Can't forget that, can we?
When it started reappearing back, like some of them were getting embedded into the walls and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So him and his buddy jumped off the boat to try to not have that happen or whatever. And then that's when they got sucked into a vortex and went into the future. The year being 2137. And I'm not going to go into the 2137 bit.
Mm-hmm.
He was just in a hospital for a little bit, but then later, he went from 2137 and somehow, he's not even sure how it happened, got thrown into the year 2749. And this is what I want to talk about, what the future looks like there. Basically, to give you a little rundown on it, he said the cities are 2.5 mile buildings tall, so we're talking 2,200 stories.
Jesus.
And he says, well, how do they do that with the gravity and shit? It would collapse under itself. They got anti-gravity like sections they can put in, so they can do whatever 20 stories, put another anti-gravity section in, and then it's just supporting that little bit instead of the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
So it's brilliant if you think about it. And in 2749, they also have the cities are floating, and they can just move around the planet where they want to go.
No shit.
That's fucking crazy. But if you conquered anti-gravity, why couldn't you do the whole city?
I suppose so.
So the form of government's different now. Each floating city, if you will, is governed by an AI computer. Which is good because then you don't have to worry about a totalitarian government taking over. And the computers are not supposed to lie, and they had one that did lie somehow, and they had to take it out of commission. And this is the part I like. The banks and the money system is like, it's gone. It's based on credit.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means is, and I'll play a clip of this later, you're born and you can basically, I don't want to say have anything you want, but it's all more given, and you just have to give back to society of doing something. It is a form of socialism. I
suppose. I can see that.
And I'll get into why that's probably not the best idea later on, but he didn't say anything about cars, but they had like moving sidewalks, like kind of like an escalator, you will, or whatever. You just get on where you want in the city and then just get off.
Okay, yeah.
And there's there was no such thing as Army or Navy, and there was no wars. Like, in fact, when he asked the AI computer that question, it was kind of like, well, why are you asking about that? It's like, it was unheard of then.
Oh, okay, yeah, because it's so far, they've been established for so long.
But he's like, then he asked the computer, well, do we have a means of protecting ourselves if we were attacked from outside sources? And they said, it's taken care of, you don't have to worry about it. So could that be laser beams or whatever?
Or is that the Matrix?
Matrix.
It's a little weird. It's like it's all taken care of. The robots have it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna get into the part right here of why the socialist economic system is not the best.
Synthetic food units, I remember, in the apartments. You could have fresh produce brought in, or you could synthesize.
Right here, he's talking about
preferred.
How food worked.
They did have restaurants, and there were, of course, stores to go shopping in. You could buy stuff if you wanted to. Buy, of course, is a misnomer. They did set up a limitation. In other words, if everything was free, a person could go out and literally grab anything they wanted. There had to be a limit against this sort of thing, of literally purging a store of everything you had because you wanted it, and wanted this, and this. There had to be a limitation. There was a form of credit, which was a rather obscure type of credit system. It wouldn't be on a monetary credit basis, but depending on your position in the society, you were allowed to have a certain comfort level, if you will. Certain things you were allowed to have to buy, if you wanted to call it to buy, to acquire. And in terms of entertainment, they had television, if I remember correctly now, they had radio of sorts. They had theater, they had many of the things which we have today, except they've been carried a little bit further. And they did have travel. You could travel to another city. They did have rail systems that covered, at least where I was in the United States. They had rail systems allegedly all over the planet, but they were not like we have them today. The rail systems were much wider. They were at least twice the width track-wise. The cars were two and a half times as wide. They were longer. And they were made out to be much more like an excursion trip, if you will, like you would go on an ocean liner on an excursion or on a cruise. You would take a cruise on a train, if you will. You would get on it, they'd have bands, they'd have all kinds of entertainment, there was sort of thing, go across the country.
So the cruise, good thing here for you and I, Andrew, bands are still existent in the year 2749, so that hasn't been replaced yet.
Wait, I got a question though. If these are floating cities that can move around, how the hell does the train system work?
I skipped ahead, but the rail systems are on the planet.
Oh, okay.
So you go down and then ride the rail systems like a cruise, and then you can go over to another city or.
Oh, so they have a bunch of stops, and then wherever that city might be floating at.
Like you said, like a cruise, you're kind of just on there having fun, just to get away and.
Oh, I've always wanted to be on a train.
It just seems weird, like a train would be a cruise, though. I don't know. I guess it could be.
I don't see why not. I mean, if he says they're twice as wide and twice as long,
it's the year and they conquered anti-gravity. Why the fuck would they need rail systems?
Exactly. I mean, I'd have an anti-gravity train.
Exactly.
You know, just like, I'm just going to float. We're good.
Back to the Future #3.
Yes!
Oh, yeah. I'll skip ahead here. Remember the other day, I guess I should explain this to the crowd here. A group from the future, they're called the Wingmakers, and they put like time capsules around the planet, and there was one item in there that didn't belong. He goes into this about, well, we'll just listen here.
And you can find that information today in the network, in the net, and so forth under the name of the Wingmakers, because that is what they call themselves. And according to what has turned up in current time, and I remember what they told me, they had made stashes all over the earth in about the 8th century A.D., which had been uncovered in the 20th century and into the 21st century. 3 have been recovered so far, one in New Mexico, which was the first one.
Well, stashes of what, though?
Of their literature, of their science, of their...
This is the Wingmakers you're talking about?
This is a buried underground, what would you call them? Time capsules, perhaps, is what would be the best thing they were, to show what their art and there was, that they had their music, their technology, And whether or not there was a warning involved, that's hard to say because it fell immediately, the first site with the Chaco Canyon, New Mexico, fell immediately under the control of NSA.
So are you saying that these engineers, these computer software engineers...
They're human engineers as well, genetic engineers initially.
Okay, are you saying that they were actually a byproduct of the wing makers?
They were the wing makers.
They were the wing makers, okay. And the wing makers then are alive and well today, year 2000.
Alive and well today in the 28th century.
Get your head around that one.
They can apparently travel to this era, but they're not living per se in this era, meaning the 20th century, 21st century. But they built these stashes, and one of them was found in 1983 approximately.
Pick it up on part 2 here.
Meaning the 20th century, 21st century. But they built these stashes, and one of them was found in 1983 approximately in Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. On the surface, there was an Indian mound and an Indian burial site, which, according to all of the geologists and archaeologists who looked at it, fitted the 8th century AD. Everything fitted except they found one artifact in there that didn't fit at all, and that's what brought in NSA. There was a compass. Indians didn't have compasses. So NSA came in, then they thought this might be an alien stash, so they put in the ACIO, which is Advanced Contact Intelligence Organization, a super secret group within NSA, with a certain secret group within that. And they couldn't find anything more than the compass, so 11 years later, they buried the thing, covered it over. I don't mean buried it physically in terms of rubble. They buried it in terms of an invisibility shield, and they totally hid the site. And about 1994, there's a earthquake in the area, a canyon wall comes down, and they find, after that they went back to check it, and they found there was an entrance into an underground cavern system with a spiral staircase carved in the solid rock and a series of 23 rooms. And this information
He sidetracks here a little bit, so I'll skip it ahead to the meat again.
get put on the net. But he had to crack the codes of what they found in the 23rd room, and that was an optical disc. Standard type like we know today, except they couldn't break the code. And NSA has some pretty damn good code breakers. And there are some very good code breakers in the government. None of them could break it. Anderson went to work on it. It took him a year and a half. He knew something like 20 languages, including ancient Sanskrit.
Did you actually know this individual, Mr.
No.
Alexander?
No. I've
Okay,
never
so this
heard of
is secondhand knowledge.
it. This is based off of the manuscripts taken off the network and the interviews of him by the one woman who put this whole manuscript on the internet.
All right, this is about the internet. Okay,
Right.
I'm trying to tie this story that you're telling right now back to.
Well, I'll tie it
27.
together.
Okay.
And the information was buried at this time and era, and according to the interviews, of which 2 were on the net, they built 7 of these stashes around the planet about the 8th century AD with the intent that they be found at some time in the future when the technology caught up with what they had accomplished and done in the way of hiding sites and burying them and recognizing certain key things like that compass that didn't belong with the Indian stash. So, ACI got into it. They finally realized when they broke the code on the optical disc, which gave the whole history, gave us a lot of this science and technology, which apparently was not released on the net, that this was not somebody from outside. This was a group of time travelers out of the future.
Thoughts?
NSA couldn't break it, and this one dude takes a year and a half and breaks it.
He was pretty smart. It took that long for him to figure it out. But
is he just a civilian then?
he was a scientist.
A scientist?
Yeah.
And he didn't just publish everything?
See, that is what I wasn't too sure about. I
Yeah.
think,
Maybe the Men in Black got to him.
but the whole thing was with that's pretty cool, is that these stashes are there and then there's that one thing that's missing and they want you to figure it out. And he goes into why they're doing this.
Oh, yeah? Well, because I was just going to ask why. Why are we looking at pictures of space, though? Is there something I'm missing?
This is just audio.
Oh, so they're just showing the shit
Yeah.
to make me question? Bastards.
put this together myself. Their goal is to try and straighten out some of the problems they realize they now have in the future, because in the year 3000 AD on, apparently there's no life on the planet. 6037 AD is dead. There's no life.
Well,
So they're trying to go
And
back.
this, of course, is something which is not a desirable outcome for humanity.
Okay, so they're still there in the 28th century, but what they're seeing is that the year 3000, or somewhere around there, life is dead.
Someplace around there, they're
Okay.
dead. Whether it's because of an alien invasion or because of a collapse of our society due to...
But don't they have the ability to time travel in the future? Obviously, they
I'm
can
sure
go
they
in
do.
in the past, so they should know what happened then.
That's one of the reasons why I believe they're coming back to the present, or will be coming back to the present, and one of the reasons why their stashes are being uncovered at this time.
Right. So this must be a real pivotal point.
It is a very pivotal point. This
The year 2000.
10 years, let's say from 1990 through 2012, or let's say 1992 through 2012, if you want to put it in terms of a 20-year bracket. Because of the information we're getting through leakage from friends of mine who have connections with the near future, saying that there will be a world war in 2003, and there will be...
See, that's where. One second, ladies and gentlemen. Please stand
They're
by.
coming for us, folks.
That's why I believe in the whole different timeline things. This was a probable future, and I think we're not on that timeline anymore.
Okay, now I was going to say something about that, because if you believe in parallel universes and different timelines,
Yeah.
then it really doesn't help going back into the past and leaving us clues, because every time we find one or every time we do something, it'll change the future.
I think that's what they were trying to do, though, too. Like he said, they were trying to change
it?
something that was happening.
Well,
Because he said, when I looked at his notes, like, there was supposed to be a World War III by, like, 2003 or something like that. And obviously that hasn't happened.
yeah.
And maybe it's been prevented, diverted, whatever. It hasn't happened.
Which is cool. I mean, but then, I don't know, that's what gets me about time travel. I mean, it really does.
It's hard to get your head around.
Every time we go back and change something, there's so, we don't really know how it gets changed. I mean, they're leaving us caches, these little stashes of shit to find, which is awesome and cool. But what happens, I mean, you don't know who's going to pick on that. I mean, if it were me, I'd go back and find the person that has some kind of effect on the future, and then try to make sure that that person doesn't do that or does something different. But instead, they're leaving us these artifacts, and it's like, well, what happened if Hitler found a laser gun artifact?
Well,
or
they
some
don't.
shit? Yeah,
they don't leave that kind of shit.
Well,
behind.
I understand, but that's. I mean, I don't know, and I don't know because you can't have maybe time travel has rules. I don't know either. Maybe you can't have interaction with people, so they just like zip in, beam me down to this burial site when everyone's gone, and that's all they can leave.
I don't know. There's this other weird time travelers like John Tater. I don't know if you ever heard of him. He came back and he did a whole interview with somebody, and then there was Andy Bishago. I don't know if I believe his story, but he shows a photograph of him being transported back to whatever it was, 1940s or something like that. Or actually, it was 1800s, I think. Anyway, side issue. I don't know if there is a directive or anything, or who would regulate that and how would that work and stuff like that, but
it's interesting. I mean, I like the idea, especially the whole the way that societies ran. You have a certain amount of credit and whatnot.
that's the part I like.
I do like that. There's no more monetary
But like
gain
he
to
said,
do stuff.
Maybe, did he say that yet, or maybe did he say?
Well,
Did he say why?
Because it's based on your job or.
Yeah, but did he say why it would be bad?
I don't think he did.
Maybe
did
we're
he?
getting into that yet. I got one more clip. I didn't label it.
Why does everything go fucking mysterious? Just give me a note, dude.
There will be a world war in 2003, and there will be
part.
enormous destruction. All of the people who have looked at the, shall we say, the trends of history, as well as the predictions by various sources, both biblical and otherwise, indicate a tremendous war sometime in this decade, which will be very, very destructive to humanity and not leave much.
Well, when you went to 2137, did they talk about a
Yes.
huge war?
They did.
Did they?
That was
did
in
they
the
date
records.
it?
There had been a war in the 21st century, which essentially that and all the air changes, which came out about the same time, were over by the year 2025, and from that point on they started to rebuild, but there wasn't much left to rebuild with, except they still had the technology, they hadn't lost it. Mm-hmm. Consequently, they had to start nearly from scratch, not quite. If it hadn't been for the nuclear subs with their optical discs, if it hadn't been for the fact that some cities were unscathed and had a basis of technology and manufacturing left so they could rebuild the rest of what they wanted.
So, yeah, his original timeline, he said there was going to be that war, and it sounded like it was documented well in 27.
2749.
2749. He said it was real document, they knew about it, and it sounded like it was a real pinnacle moment in human history, but it didn't happen now, and we're on a different timeline. And real quick, so in summary, this guy believes what he says. I really do think that he saw what he did and lived through it. And is it the kind of future we'd want? Some of it would be, but the one problem I wanted to state was the whole thing with the socialist lifestyle, where you have stuff given to you, you got a credit system and you kind of just go through life. The one downfall is there's no incentive to invent anything. So society kind of just glides along and everybody's doing the same thing, and there's no inventions or no upgrading anything, and if you keep going on that road, society just kind of collapses.
Now, see, I would disagree with that, though, to be honest with you. I really would disagree, and the reason behind that is somebody out there in the world is going to want to develop something because people are creative. So the incentive that what we work for is incentive now, to create something is usually for gains, monetary gains, which is what you're talking about. But there's people out there that are inventing things now to help better the world, and I think that's what you would have. I would actually, I don't normally disagree outright with you about much of anything, but this one I would. I think if you had a utopian society almost, where you didn't have to worry about having a 9-to-5 job or 11-to-7 or any of those types of things, and you could actually, like we were talking about in the previous episode, where you could actually go out and do the things you want to do, or travel these avenues that were not allowed, or not that they were not allowed, but these avenues that feel cut off to us because we have to work, because we need that monetary unit so we can go ahead and buy the things we need. And I personally believe that if we got rid of that, just like he's talking about, then the people that really have a passion to create things or do these things would do it still to this day. There's people out there all over the place that want to make a better world. I mean, have you ever seen that guy that made that roadway? Did we talk about that yet? It's a hexagon. It looks like a big stop sign. It's about 6, 8 inches thick. It's a solar panel.
Oh, no, I never heard of this.
Oh my God, I'll have to find it for you. You'll love it. But this guy, he's just a dude. I don't think there's any reason for him to make this roadway, but he was tired of blacktop, potholes, and everything else. So he developed a roadway that is these big hexagon blocks, and they're heated. There's solar panels inside. They're LED'd. They can withstand everything. If one breaks, then you just pull it out, pull another one in. But they're solar powered too, which runs into a huge line, a huge line that all the power goes into. So all the roadways, all the sidewalks, all the parking lots, everything that you drive or walk on would be these plastic, hexagon deals, and they all fit together.
And what would be the benefit of this?
The benefit would be, one, I bitch constantly about electric cars because we're still using coal and these fossil fuels to make electricity. Well, now, if you're, look at, I don't know what major highway, I-35 is the one I drive all the time, of course. If you made all of I-35 a very large solar panel, then you're creating energy, correct? And this energy is a solar panel, it's solar, it's green. So then when you buy that damn electric car I keep on complaining about, well, now when you plug in, you're not burning coal for it. And this guy developed this because, he didn't like the roads. They have LEDs in them. So now you don't have to sit there driving down the road where the rain hits the windshield, you can't tell where that fucking line is because they're, faded and whatnot. Now they're LED'd out, so you're going to see these, yellow lines.
So how long ago did he have this invented?
Oh, this was, I think I read it off Facebook actually about 2, maybe 3 years ago.
So it's just getting suppressed then.
It's no one wants to use it. Because think about it. If you were to put something like that into place, you're going to get rid of your road construction. You're going to get rid of your blacktop. You're going to get rid of the salt company because you don't need salt anymore. They're heated.
Yeah.
I mean, the insurance. I mean, when a deer walks out on these damn things, a mile down the road while you're driving down, you know, your LED lights and everything else, it will actually show you a picture of a deer that says deer ahead. So you know to slow down. Kid runs out in the middle of the road, it'll do a picture. You can change the company or whatever, the Department of Transportation can change, 6 lanes to 4 lanes if need be and all this other crazy shit. And no one's really putting any effort into like, hey, why don't we do this? I mean, could you imagine every roadway, parking lot, and Walmarts and everything else all powered by these little, hexagon deals? No more ice on the roads because they're heated.
Are they costly or?
Apparently, yeah. I mean, I didn't get too much into it. We're going to do a show on it, I guess.
Yeah.
But this guy, my point was, and I apologize for getting a little off subject. I'm a little passionate about that one, though. My point is, even if you had a society like that, people are always going to want to invent. There's inventors out there. I mean, you look at what the hell was that damn?
Well,
shit.
The whole thing is just the incentives kind of gone. Because
I
really,
don't think so. I think the incentive would be there. I think you'd actually have more people inventing more things because now the guy that's working a 9-to-5 job, the one that he absolutely hates because he's got to pay his electric bill, no longer has to do that. And that guy might have that $1 million idea, and not even dollar-wise. He might just have that life-changing idea. I mean, how many ideas do you think we could have?
where in the world do they have socialism? Is it Russia?
Yeah, and that's the problem with socialism. Socialism's all about what you work for, though, goes into a big mass, or that's kind of where communism. It's almost the same president, so everything you work for goes towards a greater good, and then they divvy it all up.
The problem with that is some guy doesn't want to work his ass off, and the other person's slacking gets the same benefits.
And the thing the worst part about it is that, and this is why it might work in that, is that if everybody's building in towards the better good, normally what happens, because if you see it everywhere, is when you get to the top of the government, you have corruption. Please tell me you believe in corruption, because everyone else does. But you have this, so your politicians are corrupt, and your generals are corrupt, and all these other people are corrupt. That's why communism and socialism it works on paper, but it doesn't work because you have the human nature in there. This guy's talking about how everything's ran by an AI.
So it might be a little bit better.
So you wouldn't have that corruption at the higher levels,
Yeah.
And that might actually work.
That's why they said they got rid of the banking and monetary system because of
corruption.
What's happening now with yeah.
And if you were to say that there wasn't a World War III, I mean, I could agree that we haven't had a world war, but we've been at war for how many years now? We're fighting ISIS now. We fought Iraq.
Well, he was talking about that it was huge, like a lot of people dying, like in the worldwide.
No, I don't know. I mean, because we might not be in a world war, but we've been at war for a long time.
We've always been at wars.
Yeah. I mean, there hasn't been a time where everyone in the most everybody's just like, hey, we're at peace. It hasn't happened in a while. So.
But to wrap this up, I'll put the link to this video in the description. If you get a chance, listen to the whole thing. It's kind of interesting, but like I said, it's definitely not what's going on now because he said some stuff was supposed to happen and it didn't happen. But like I said, I think it's different timelines and we kind of got thrown into a different section here. So.
I'd agree with that too. I really would. How did he get back? I never did. I wanted to ask that. Did he just go to sleep one day and he woke up back here? Or?
He said he went and talked to the AI computer, and the computer, what they do is they it reads your mind telepathically, and for some reason the computer's like, well, it's time for you to go back, because he didn't know he was working a job. He was actually giving tours and a tour guide.
Oh, okay.
Of the city. And yeah, he's like, it's time for you to go back. So he went back to the year 2137, picked up his friend.
Oh, no shit.
And then they went back to 1980, whenever the Philadelphia experiment. I can't remember that. But yeah.
So the computer knew that he was from the past.
Yeah.
Made him a tour guide. That's actually pretty smart, right? So you don't know shit about anything. We're going to make you a tour guide.
Put him to work.
Yeah, that'd be a great thing to do because you'd have to learn what the society's like. That's actually pretty damn smart.
Hell of an experience. So God, I wish it'd be cool to go through something like that. But I just wanted to point out, fuck floating cities and like how everything's kind of like given to you and you're not really like busting your ass.
That's something I actually like the idea.
Yeah.
I really do. But I mean, that's a long ways off. I'm thinking we could probably do a lot of that shit now if we were to put more effort into that type of technology.
Thing about this, I actually sat down to figure out how old I would be, and it's like, oh, that's not gonna happen.
No.
So,
I think we can probably live for a little longer than normal because of the way technology is, but I don't know. That's a long time.
obviously we wouldn't make it to the year 2751, but I was hoping for the 2137. But he said there was massive Earth changes. Like the Great Lakes were combined into one big lake, and Florida kind of lost some. There was more water around there, and then Mississippi was wider too.
Well, I suppose with global warming.
But we haven't seen much of that yet. So.
Yeah, sure. You know what I like about global warming? This is a little off subject, but I was watching TV last week, and they said buy Belize, and they show all these little islands that are like a foot above water. And it's gorgeous little areas, one little cabins. I'm thinking, yeah, buy it, you dumb shit. In 5 years, you'll be underwater. Look, this is my island. And you're up to water up to your waist,
So, what's your topic on here? What do you got?
What do I got here? 10 real incidents that prove that time travelers exist. I don't have notes on this one. Show which ones are the best. I wonder if I could find them here. Let me see. So what happened was in China, they opened up a tomb that was supposedly undisturbed. And when they went through the tomb, they found a small metal ring that was a watch. And it was it was stopped at 10:06. And it said Swiss on the back of it. And so apparently the tomb was undisturbed for 400 years. And they walked in there. And the picture of I don't know if this is an exact picture or whatnot. So
It's like a mini watch.
But see, the thing is,
it ring.
Yeah, it looked like a ring, or I thought it was an earring at first. So it stopped at 10:06, and it says Swiss was engraved on the back. Now, the thing about this picture that kind of gets me is it does look like it's been in there for a while. It doesn't look brand new. It doesn't just look dirty like it just fell off. And I've never seen a kind of watch that would fit on your ring finger or anything. But
so this was buried well before they even had something like that invented. Is what you're saying?
Is what I'm saying. Yeah. And I like that one because the picture that they have shows it shows like it's been aged, And
yeah,
I think that's pretty interesting. That was a pretty good one too. There's a Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, what did they say about it?
Well, we can watch it very quick. Won't hurt nobody.
Yeah. If you think about it, that's fucking genius to make a ship disappear. You can really, not only on radar, but be able to physically disappear it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't like the hipster one. I mean, it's not bad, but he doesn't belong.
Yeah, he definitely doesn't. It's like, I suppose he could, the problem is, people could easily fake shit.
Yeah. And the thing of it is, the guy might be wearing something different, but I don't wear the same stuff.
Montauk. I recognize that tower. That was part of, Al Bielek was there too.
Yep. And I have such a problem with
See, that tower's there yet. There's some videos of kids going in there and everything's all spray painted on and shit. They had this chair where you sit in it and whatever you're thinking about, that it manifests.
Uh-huh.
Because this one guy was thinking about a Sasquatch and it appeared outside and it started destroying the base and everything.
You serious?
Yeah,
That's not to piss a guy off.
fucking crazy to look into that.
I might have to look at that one. All right, this next one, the one I was looking for, and apparently I don't have it on this video, and I apologize. I'll see if I can find it. Was a Spanish soldier leaned back against a wall. And he ended up across, and this wasn't time travel per se, but He leaned against the wall. Next thing you know, he falls through the wall, and he ends up in England somewhere. Yeah, he was in Mexico. So he went from Mexico to France or England, like split second. And he kind of like, he's like, what the hell just happened? You know, he's there. They actually have it like him being there, him saying what the hell just happened, put him on a boat, sent him back. And he still to this day doesn't know how the hell it happened. I apologize. I'll try to find that video and we'll do it. We'll show that. It's not time travel, but it's kind of like that wormhole perception, which I have a bunch of other stuff, doorways and whatnot, where they say that the aliens would come through, or people would lean up against something and they'd fall back, or they'd end up at a different area.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that stuff. So I apologize. So I'll find that one and hopefully we'll be able to do it. But this one here I like only because I don't like the picture as much, but I like this one because of what the man had in his pockets. And I'll go ahead and let this run. You can tell me what you think.
So he had stuff from 1972,
Yeah.
and he was in 1950 or 78.
From 1876 to 1950
Okay.
directly. A copper coin for a bill for the care of a carriage and a horse. A letter from 1876. And see, this is the reason I like this stuff is because it's that tangible evidence that I'm looking. Now I don't know if this is true.
So
or
that's
not,
the problem. There's not like any.
You know, and this picture isn't of what it is, I'm sure. But I mean, that dollar bill is way too good. But anyway, you know, that's not what it looked like in 1876.
Yeah.
But the reason this one I like is because, you know, the man's there. Next thing you know, they're like going through his pockets, and he disappeared. I mean, they have the NYPD said that, you know, at the age 29.
They said the body disappeared?
Yeah. Let's see. We go back a little bit here. An investigation by NYPD policemen revealed that the man had disappeared without a trace in 1876 at the age of 29.
Okay, so back then.
So yeah, so he disappears at 29, and all of a sudden, boom, he shows up here, and in 1950 gets hit by a vehicle, and the stuff from 1876 is still in his possession. That's kind of holds a little bit of water with me. Doesn't mean that it happened, or you know, but you know. The police go ahead and they do an investigation, find the guy who actually existed, said he disappeared at 29. All of a sudden he's there at 1950, same age, gets hit, has all these things on him.
When were cars invented?
Yeah, it's all my investigational, all the things I research, and I don't know the car. Well, you know.
So maybe he didn't know what the fucking car was, and that's why he got hit, obviously. Or he just appeared right in the middle of the fucking road.
And that's what I kind of thought. Because a lot of these disappearing things where, you know, they lean up against things, they just kind of appear.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden. So maybe all of a sudden he appeared and he was just like, oh, bam, hits by a car. Wonderful.
What a way to go.
Because, you know, if you were to think about it, and the reason I like that is because he didn't talk to anybody. And there's no reference to him living there, working there, anything else. He just kind of appeared, gets hit by a car. Which is a shitty thing to do if you're going to go through time. Make sure your landing zone is clear of any vehicles at all times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a pain in the ass. But those two things really got me. I mean, what do you think about, you know, this type of...
I wonder where they got is there anything in the description about where they got this shit?
No, I don't think so.
Because my problem with it is, like you said, there's not much documentation. These are just bullet points, and there's no, like, hey, this is how we know. Yeah, the hit and run victim. But then again, this is still bullet points. He's not saying anything about where he got it from. But it's interesting, you know.
Don't know if it's really true, but there's a lot of, in all my research that I've done, there's a lot of these stories of people traveling. There's one on here about a guy flying and he goes through a storm, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle type of stories you'll hear. Went through a storm, it looked like a wormhole. Next thing you know, they show up and they see, you know, aircraft that are 20, 30 years ahead, or the airfield's different. You know.
In summary, I think there's something to this stuff. Like, it's just, I think aliens are easier to prove than time travel.
I agree. I really do agree. And I think, time travel is hard. And if you believe in wormholes, like if we were to say aliens exist and they're using wormholes to travel from point A to point B, and make that travel, then if there are wormholes out there, when we don't know how they work for sure, then maybe there's a wormhole. I mean,
there's something to it because isn't it like, if you do a little bit of research into it, like once you get out to space, like space and time are the same thing or whatever.
Oh, yeah, space time?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to get
into that. So that just gets confusing, but yeah.
Well, and time, that's what gets me on. Time is circumstantial to all this other shit. So it's weird. It really is. Talking to Mr. Steve Weber, I'm an idiot anyway, but you can't do wormholes and we don't have any energy and everything else. But
there's also this one guy too that said, when you start enjoying something you're doing and time goes by so fast.
Oh yeah.
That you've actually only aged that little bit of time.
Oh really?
Even though that much time passed.
Speaking of time, and the perception of time. Did I talk to you? Did I do that on the show already? Where they had a guy suspended, by a crane or something, and they have a digital readout on his arm, and it's flashing all these numbers, random numbers, but it's flashing so fast that right now you and I wouldn't be able to read it. It just looked like random flashing, right?
Yeah.
So then they drop him. So while he's falling, he's supposed to look at that and then see if he can see any numbers.
Oh yeah.
I think that was, I might have mentioned that.
Yeah. What'd you say it was?
And then of course, your mind can slow down time, or like not. You'll notice that if you ever get in a car wreck too, if anybody has, it slows down. You start falling down the stairs, all of a sudden things start slowing down. And it goes back to the placebo effect too. We still don't understand how that works, but if you think a pill is going to help you out, the mind can heal the body. Well, the mind apparently can slow down time, so you have faster reaction. There's a lot that we just don't even know about ourselves. So who's to say that there can't be a wormhole, or we can't self-heal, or we can't speak telepathically, or these types of things. So
yeah. we're getting beef that you want to.
Is my easy bake oven done? So
well, so there you go. Time travel, ladies and gentlemen. Kind of a little iffy about it, but just look into it. It's one of those things you just got to check out and dig a little bit. But this has been Talk is Cheap. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dan Ohlfeld.
And I'm Dusty Long. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment, please.
Have a good one.
Take it easy. Thanks a lot.
Getting beat there.
This fucking one overheated.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're
That's
kidding
because
me.
I'm on fire. That's why.
Did you know Apple's got a hidden spot on the Mac? Sidebar right here. We're gonna customize this. Need to find that right font quickly without all the bullshit?
Include lyric header, that's your song title and your artist. Click on go, and you're gonna wanna hold the option key down. Quick and easy, gotta love it. My SSD was pretty fucking small. We got a nice custom field over here to enter what we need. Take a look at this, very helpful. Use it to your advantage. Just go into my music, open it up. This is the list of all the apps. Let's keep it basic and simple so you understand the concept. Do a Control D and you can delete the forward. You gotta get shit done, you gotta get it done in a pinch. I actually did this with my Final Cut Pro 10 libraries. Mind blown. Click and drag for what you want. Like, very fucking powerful tool. And of course everybody's drunk and they're not paying attention to you, and well, that's a fucking hassle. There you go. Quick, easy tip. Make your Mac great for you. And thank you for watching Dan and Mac.